Well, I'll start off by saying how happy we are to be able to come back and play at Zubke Memorial. I mean, we are excited about being back home, have an opportunity to play, kick off a football game at 7 o'clock, and play a great challenge with Wisconsin coming in here. But as you talk to our football players throughout last week and throughout this week early now, they're excited about being back. Of course, we used the bye week as a chance for us to get better. We really called it a bus week, and again, as I mentioned before, it comes from Coach Gross in a book that he had told me about called The Energy Bus, and talks about being positive, talks about building on history, and talks about taking your program and doing what you need to do to make it better. And I definitely believe our players took advantage of that last week, evaluating themselves, evaluating how they can become better football players. Coaching staff did the exact same thing, evaluated on things that we need to get better as a coaching staff and things that are going to make us better. And then, of course, we were able to practice 3 times last week, and we had one last night, of course, a Sunday night practice under the lights to get ourselves used to playing under the lights. Wisconsin, good football team. I have the utmost respect for Gary. He does a great job. I've known him for a while. He worked for Coach Meyer out at Utah. That's where we first got to meet one another. I have respect for what he's done at the programs that he's been involved in, from being a coordinator and assistant to being a head football coach. And you could definitely see that by the way the Badgers played this last weekend against Northwestern. They had an exceptional game on their part, and I know it'll be a great challenge for us, but one we're looking forward to.
Did you get Coach Cubitt a birthday cake today?
60. The big guy turned 60 today. We gave it to him right before we took him to the Florida-Georgia line concert. So we had him there, gave him an orange cake. I think he put it in his car, though. I don't think he took it actually into the concert.
How was the concert?
It was great. We had a great time. It was an opportunity to take my son. Usually you don't have open weeks. I don't think we planned that one correctly, being a football coach, but I haven't been able to spend many birthdays with him. So with the job and all, so we were able to go to the concert together, and the assistant coaches went with us also, and they got to sit all by themselves on one side of the arena while Coach Beckman and Mrs. Beckman and all the kids sat together on the other side of the arena.
What concerns you most about Wisconsin? Is it their running game or their defense, what they showed today?
Well, they've got a lot of guys back offensively. You know, you look at those films and you look at film from last year, there's a lot of familiar faces offensively. They're running basically the same thing they did last year offensively. Physical up front, running the football, top in the conference right now in offense. Defensively, there's 6 faces that you see that are very familiar. One's really familiar with me, and I will bring this up, that Desmond Southward is, Eli Rashid, our defensive line coach at Toledo. It's his son. So he used to be there during the summer. We used to see him even prior to him going to Wisconsin. So I know a lot about him as a young man, great kid, and a great player. But know a lot about them with what they do defensively, and they do have some of Gary's stuff involved in their defense this year.
Do you kind of go along with the line that this is just like any other game, or is this a big game for you guys?
I think they all are in the Big Ten. You look at it each week. I mean, there's only 3 undefeated teams in the Big Ten with Big Ten records. And this is a very balanced conference. You've got to have your A game ready whenever you step out there on the football field every Saturday. And that's what's a credit to this conference. I think, just about top to bottom, it's fairly balanced. There's some young players that are playing in this league this year that had to step up, just as we've had. And some of those guys are stepping up. So they've got a great defensive back now that has 4 interceptions. He's a true freshman. He's had to step his game up so that Wisconsin was better, and he has. So those are the things that I think that are common about the Big Ten.
You mentioned Nebraska kind of out physical you in that game. Wisconsin kind of tries to do the same thing. So, how do you prepare?
Very similar. Offensive line wise, if you look at Nebraska's offensive line compared to Wisconsin, big, extremely big, and physical. So we're going to have to utilize. Our players understood that. They understood that they were a little bit manhandled in Lincoln. Again, it's moving them around, getting them in the right position, making tackles in open field was another, blaring issue that we had against Nebraska. So, those things you continue to work on like you do every day, the fundamentals of football, and you try to get better and put your players in those situations so they can become better. But that's Big Ten football. I mean, there's a lot of teams offensively that are going to try to run the power and run the football to establish their offense.
You mentioned getting more athletes out there. Does that mean some of the younger guys could get some more reps?
Definitely did that with, we got Tico Powell back, so Tico will be back. I think that's big for us on the defensive front. Vontrell Williams is finally back. Is he capable yet to play? Probably not right now because he hasn't been involved in playing football for a couple months. It takes time to get back to that. But those are 2 defensive linemen that we hadn't had that are back. So that's just going to make our football program better.
Did Vontrell play last year?
No, redshirted.
What most teams, when they have a problem in an area, by mid-season, you see a lot of changes being made, or personnel change. It looks to me like you've stayed the same, or are planning to stay the same, as far as I know. Is this because of lack of depth, or you feel you have all the right people in the right spots?
Well, again, I think that with the youth and the players that are playing for us, you're going to go through some growing pains. It's not been about effort. It's not been about lack of assignments or missed assignments. It's been more about just not making the play. And right now, with the depth that we have and with the players that we have, we're building this defense especially for the future. And the best way that we know how is to give them reps because they're going to have to play. Yes, there is a little bit of depth issue there, Lauren. There's no question about that. But, putting these players in and letting them experience it, the true freshman defensive backs, D'Angelo Bentley, who hasn't played but 1 year. It's just you have to put those players in those positions because that's who we have now, and that's who we have to believe in.
Think of these running backs from Wisconsin.
Very good. A lot of the familiar faces that you saw last year, but they've done an exceptional job against some pretty quality defenses.
Wisconsin blitzed a lot against Northwestern on Saturday. How much of a concern is that for you, especially with what Nebraska was able to do for you guys when they did?
Well, I think that they do quite a bit. They've got a great linebacker in Borland. I mean, he's a great asset to use in blitz times. So, does it? I think our offense has done well against the blitz, other than the one that we've had a couple times against Nebraska. So I know Coach Cubitt will have some things schemed up. Coach Ricker will have some things protected up, so that it gives our players the best chance to be successful against those blitzes.
You've had 2 byes. What's this stretch of games like now, where you just kind of are full go? I mean, how are you kind of approaching that?
Well, we've been talking about it quite a bit because these are the 7 games that, are the crucial games in to being a champion in the Big Ten. You've got to take one at a time. I've never had 2 bye weeks like this. We've utilized the bye weeks to get healthy and to do those things. But these 7 weeks are the weeks that separate, I guess you'd say, who's going to be there in the end. So, we're going to take one at a time. We happened to play Wisconsin, who was also in the championship game in 2012, and we know that they're a good football team, got some good players on their team, and we're going to have to play play good to be victorious.
Do your players like to play the night game, Tim, at home?
I do, talking to them, they really do. I've been involved probably more night games, lately. From the Big 12, we played quite a few night games to in the Mid-American, of course. But I do think our players enjoy playing at night.
Do you have any questions from the phone lines for Coach Beckman? Anything else here in the room?
Coach Jonathan Brown, obviously you've been around a lot of good linebackers. Just you always talk about his instincts. And how do you get something like that? I mean, how rare is that to find a player like that?
Well, they don't come about all the time. I will say that. I've been very fortunate to be around some great ones, and he ranks right up there with them. The thing that I think sets apart the things that Jonathan Brown does is his work ethic off the field. The way he studies the game. Really, all our linebackers do that. But it's built from, I think, Jonathan. Only being here with Jonathan, I think it's built from Jonathan. He's very apt to be a coach, and he wants to help the young players. So I think that's really what separates Jonathan from maybe some of the other ones that I've been around.
Anything else for Coach?
Well, birthday boy's right back there. I see him in his orange. If you want to talk to him, Coach Banks will be right back up. Thanks,
And we
guys.
got some players in the way back.